Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Half hour being brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer everywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. 6 great flavors of slushies and ready-to-drink cocktails now. Jack Daniels, Crown Royal, High Noon, and the Pickle Bar, led by my 2 personal favorites, the Barrels and the Dills. Indeed, second to none. All at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. All right, let's bring in Nick Farabaugh now. Nick, welcome back. It's so great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Steve. I always appreciate the invite.
Yeah, same here. All right, so now they make the deal. They send Pickens to Dallas. Doors open for a couple of guys. But there are some names that are still out there. One being an interesting one that did some pretty good things for the Buffalo Bills, but not so much after he left. That's Gabe Davis. Is there some interest there between the two sides?
Yeah, and he's visiting today. So the Steelers have him in. They're going to check out his knee. That's going to be a big thing for him. He had knee surgery in November, also had a PCL sprain that January. So that left knee is going to be a big sticking point. He's already visited the Giants and the San Francisco 49ers, didn't sign a deal there. And listen, the cool thing about Gabe Davis is he's a pretty high upside, low risk option because he's going to get paid $11 million this year. It's kind of like Russell Wilson last year. He was getting paid by the Broncos. You might be able to get him for the vet min. So I think that's a big upside of Gabe Davis. You don't really have to spend much of your cap space. We don't know what the Aaron Rodgers deal would look like if that is signed. Right. How much do you really have to work with? But yeah, Gabe Davis, definitely there is some interest there from the Steelers. I think he fits what they want to do. He blocks. He's a downfield threat. He kind of fits their MO. He really works, I think, well opposite of DK Metcalf, too. So it makes a lot of sense for them if he's all checked out health-wise.
All right, so up to this point, a lot of people are curious about Will Howard as to where he fits in this. You and I both know he's 3. I mean, Skylar Thompson and Mason Rudolph. But was it the impression of people that the game started to slow down for him a little bit at this level just by going through the 4 days?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we talked to Will today. He said that as much. The other thing with kind of rookie quarterbacks is the play calls are longer, too. It's just, a lot of mental things happening there. So a lot of things have kind of come on quickly for Will Howard, and he seems to be much more comfortable. And just watching him, Steve, he looks better. He's anticipating throws better. Things seem slower. The first day I remember watching him, and I was just like, this kid, his eyes are just jumping out of his sockets. I mean, it's like Minka Fitzpatrick's running all around, and Deshaun Elliott's everywhere, and you got all these safeties just running around, and he didn't know what hit him. And over these past 5 days, as things have gotten better, now we're on day 6 of OTAs, things have slowed down for him. He looks more like the Will Howard you saw at Ohio State. He's making kind of aggressive decisions when he needs to. He's going out of structure when he needs to. He looks more comfortable. So we have seen that slow down for him, as it should for any rookie quarterback. So not much concern there. I wouldn't say he's wowed. I wouldn't say he's struggled. He's kind of kept his head afloat right now, but things have definitely gotten slower for him, and we'll see. I think it's a good launching pad here for training.
How is Mason Rudolph? I mean, everybody's talking about all the other options. How was he?
Yeah, he's cool, calm, collected. I think you know what you're going to get with Mason, which is a really good back spot start type player. He's got a great deep ball. I think that's shown up for sure at OTAs. He's very calm in terms of his handling of the huddle. Teammates follow him and they love him. We know what Mason Rudolph is in Pittsburgh. He's got that kind of moxie about him. We know what happened in 2023. He's got that ability to kind of come off adversity like that. He just looks solid. Like any veteran quarterback that's been through OTAs 7 or 8 times like he has, he's looked fine. Is he blowing you out of the water to the point where they're not going to pursue Aaron Rodgers anymore? No. But is he doing a nice job? I do think that. He's definitely been clearly the best quarterback here. It's not even close.
Which now leads into this question. What in the world do we know about Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, Steve, it's a big question. I mean, Aaron Rodgers right now, I think the kind of logical explanation is he just doesn't want to be here at OTAs and minicamp. We know what happened last year. He's been very outspoken to in the past. Like, they shouldn't have anything going on before late July or August 1st. He talked at the NFLPA a while back about that when he was a star with the Packers. We know that about Aaron Rodgers. He's not like the spring part of this football schedule. He literally missed OTA last year to go on a trip to Egypt while he was with the Jets. I think, I guess he could sign next week. I'd be surprised. I think he's going to sign before training camp, and that's probably what's going to happen. From people I talked to in the organization, they're very confident he's still going to be their quarterback this year. He's in constant communication with Mike Tomlin and Oakron. So we'll see, but I think that's where we're at.
Look, I remember years ago, I think it was Tim Floyd was the head basketball coach at USC at the time. And nobody knew what O.J. Mayo was going to do. And Mayo called Floyd, I guess the way the story goes, the night before school started at USC for the fall semester. He says, I'll be there tomorrow for workouts. He's like, what? I have a feeling this is Aaron Rodgers. That's something out of nowhere. Mike Tomlin's going to get a call like on July 20th. Okay, I'm showing. I think that could be how this plays out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I will say it's interesting that, DK Metcalf isn't at OTAs too. They're both based in Southern California, so easily get workouts there together, even if Rodgers hasn't signed. So that's not a big issue either if you wanted to worry about your number one receiver. We already know that they have had a workout together, but I think Rodgers is going to sign very close to July 23rd. And the Steelers might even start to kind of vet other options like a Kirk Cousins or signing Carson Wentz and just rolling with Mason. But I do think Rodgers is probably going to be their quarterback. And as you mentioned, he might, start on July 23rd. He very well could tell them on July 22nd, I'll be there tomorrow for the conditioning. And that's that.
Just one more question about him. The Jets, because he was there, had a fair amount of national TV exposure. I think you're under the old contract, you were allowed 6. I think the Jets were on 5. And if you look at him early in the season, you're like, hey. But the second half of the season where they weren't on as often, I don't think people realize he actually played pretty well. Not great, but he played pretty well because at that point he was like maybe 16, 17 months removed from the Achilles injury. Is that some of the thought process the Steelers are having, that the last 8 games he was much better?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think he's clearly the best option just based off of that, the physical talent he has. Certainly Kirk Cousins did the opposite. Kirk Cousins looked worse the more he played.
Good point.
Which is interesting, right? And I mean, Carson Wentz, we know what he is. So the options they have right now, I mean, Rodgers was the one that finished strong. So you're feeling like, okay, who am I going to bet on, the 4-time MVP or Kirk Cousins? I mean, it's pretty easy to say who you're doing that, even if he's 41. And Rodgers definitely still has that arm talent. I think that's the thing. He might not be able to move like he once could, but he can still sling the bill. I think you saw that last year, where he had some really, really nutty throws still. And so that's where I view Rodgers at. I think that's where the Steelers view him as.
Yeah, I mean, in other words, one thing you have to let go of at some point is you have to let go of the idea you can still do things that you did in your 20s, right, and get away with it. And that's something he's not quite there yet. All right, T.J. Watt. T.J. Watt is the perfect example of a great contract that in this league, in a short period of time, can become somewhat obsolete. Okay? Myles Garrett made it somewhat obsolete. Micah Parsons may make Myles Garrett's contract look obsolete. Watt's going into the last year of his contract with the Steelers, not doing anything with them right now. What's your thoughts on what kind of deal they potentially can come to with Watt?
Yeah, probably like a 3-year deal. That's probably around $40 million per year. I think that's probably around where it's going to end up being. I think you look at where Watt's going to want. He has, I think, a little bit of pride against Myles Garrett. We know that has been a back-and-forth thing. I think there's a pride thing there between those two. And I think he still thinks he's the best edge rusher in football. And I think you can argue that. And so $40 million per year, I think you're going to see, the first 2 years of that guaranteed probably. So that's something like, I don't know, $85 million guaranteed. I mean, it's going to be a monster deal. It's in the Steelers' best interest to get this done before Micah Parsons' deal gets done, before Aiden Hutchinson gets done, before the Bengals maybe come around finally on Trey Hendrickson. The price is going up. There's premium edge rushers that are all up for contracts this year. So especially to get this done sooner rather than later. And they've been talking as far back as the Combine, from what I know. So I'm optimistic this gets done. I know there's been a lot of talk about it. I don't really think there's any question about it. I think he probably gets around $39 to $40 million per year, probably 3 years tacked onto the 1 year this year. And it's going to be a monster contract. So they're going to keep T.J. Watt. Just kind of where does the structure fall out? I don't think they can afford to wait until September like they did last year with Cam Hayward and Pat Fryer.
Derek Harmon. I've found him to be interesting because I know he has some marvelous traits. But I also did 5 Derek Harmon games in my career. 4 at Michigan State and 1 at Oregon. And no offense, Nick, I didn't see it. I just didn't. I'm sorry. Okay, for all I know, the next level he's going to be great. What do the Steelers see in him?
They see a disruptive, big-bodied player similar to Stephon Tuitt. That's what I was told. That's the comp I've heard. They see a lot of that in him. They see a 5-back that can be a disruptive pass rusher while being an instant boost in the run defense. And this year was kind of the year he put it together. His years at Michigan State were really up and down. He would make plays, but he would lack finish. Here at Oregon, he was, he led the NCAA in pressures. He was second in pressure rate. He was really good as a run defender for them. And that was kind of the consistency that you needed to see out of him versus where he was at Michigan State. And so that's where I think they derive a lot of their optimism from him, is because he just was a rock-solid player that did a little bit of everything at Oregon. The Michigan State tape is certainly one. I think he was, going to be a 4th or a 5th-round pick before he went to Oregon, and I think his consistency boosted him all the way up there. He's obviously a great athlete. I think finishing is going to be the big thing for him, right? It's going to be, can you make that TFL in the backfield? Can you finish that sack? It feels like there's a lot on tape where he is almost making plays and just can't finish them. It's a lot like Keanu Benton when you watch him, because Keanu Benton is always in the backfield. He's always nearly making plays. And I thought that's very similar to what I saw from Derek Harmon at Oregon this year, was that lack of ability to finish. I think he missed tackles like 30% rate, which is just an insane number for an interior defensive line. So that's going to be the big thing for him. But they see a lot of upside with his ability to do a little bit of everything. Right,
because, Penn State played Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. And I remember I'm putting together the chart, and I'm like, Derek Harmon, he's still playing? He transferred there? I'm like, okay. And the stats look really good. The stats were really good. I'm like, wow, he put together some nice stats. Then they played the game. And again, this is a game, so this is not a full body of work. But he did the same thing he did at Michigan State. Penn State ran for 220 yards that night, right? And they weren't all sweeps. Okay, so I'm just warning everybody.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And listen, they, a lot of people that I talk to also do point out that Oregon defensive line had other players drafted. Jordan Birch,
yes,
Caldwell.
Yep. Birch is a terrific player.
Right. he's a really good player. And then they have a ton of young guys, too. They're going to be probably future NFL picks. We're looking at guys like Mateo Uiagalelei, really high-level players there.
Yes.
But people, and I know a lot of people in the draft process that were telling me about how Caldwell, who was the big nose tackle, freed up Harmon sometimes to make plays. And so, the Steelers this year are kind of going to be betting on Harmon to make that jump on his own. And I think there's reasonable expectations for why that should be. He had some really good games against some top opponents. That game was probably his worst game of the year when you look at it. But I do think there's reason to be optimistic about it. If he can finish, and that's the biggest thing, if he can just learn how to finish and wrap up, he's going to make tackles. That's going to be the thing. His stats last year would have been insane if he had been able to finish. He was in the backfield so often in some of those games. It's the consistency about finishing in the backfield. It's a small step, but it's the biggest thing. If you in the backfield but can't make the tackle, it doesn't matter what happens before. So if he can finish, the Steelers are going to have a really good player.
Really. Going to be. And being with Cam Hayward helps him, no doubt. Caleb Johnson, when he's got the ball in his hands, is that was a really nice pick. But you and I both know it's in this league, it's not just what you do with the ball in your hands. How well do you play when you don't have the ball? How's he been in pass protection so far to this point? What kind of learning curve does he need to make sure he gets on the field?
He's a huge pass pro learning curve. I just didn't ask him to do a lot of it.
No kidding.
Right. They don't throw that much, and when they do, it's not done very often. And so he's going to have to learn a lot of just identifying protections, identifying dangers, which is all that. But he has done an incredible job of trying to embrace that mentality. He's been asking, Jaylen Warren, who is just an awesome back in pass pro, all these questions about technique with his hands, his hips. He has been so meticulous and detailed in the questions he's asked Steelers running backs coach Eddie Faulkner. He's been apparently in the film room just working away at it. This is a guy that recognizes a weakness and is attacking it ruthlessly. And so we will see. Obviously, there's no pads yet. When backs on backers start in July, that's going to be a really fun thing to watch with Caleb Johnson because he, while raw in pass pro, is just absolutely attacking it every day. And I'll tell you what, he's getting more and more praise, and it's looking natural to him. The new techniques he's learning, he's starting to actually put out there. I remember on Tuesday this week, Steve, there were 5 minutes left in the individual period, and Eddie Faulkner said, "We're not leaving until you get this right." And those 5 minutes, he did rep after rep after rep after rep until he got it right. And he was asking questions and focusing on everything. This is a detail-oriented player that wants to fix this so bad. And I think that is such a great sign when you're talking about a weakness. So while it's rough and while he has a big learning curve, I think he has the right mentality to attack this and become pretty good at it.
See, and I think that's the statement that means everything. Because that's one thing you would see after practice with Abdul Carter, who ended up being the 3rd overall pick in the draft. He'd spend extra time working on his craft, working on takeoff, working on having violent hands, whatever it may be. You can't put a price when guys want to put in the extra time because they want to be good. In your opinion, it's great for stories, but are these workouts without pads useful?
Not super useful. I've seen guys come through. I will say, listen, I have identified when I kind of look at some of these practices. I saw Jaylen Warren his first year, and I said, that guy looks like a player to me. But some of them fizzle, and some of them do continue it, right? And I've seen others that have really struggled in these instances that end up having great seasons. Joey Porter Jr., his rookie year, was abysmal at OTAs. And by the time the season came around, we knew where he was at. And so, does it matter? I'm not sure it matters a ton in terms of how good you are. I think it is good, for me at least as an outsider, to say, what's your mentality like? Are you asking detail-oriented questions? What's your mindset like? What's your base athletic trait look like? And kind of just identifying traits and high upsides and ceilings. I think that's kind of another way you can look at it. If a guy's making plays, you're able to kind of say, okay, there might be something there. It's just a way to circle a guy, but does it actually mean anything? Not really.
Always a pleasure, Nick. In season, off season, terrific as always. Thanks so much for all the information. I just enjoy talking to you. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me on, Steve. I enjoy this as always.
Nick Farabaugh joining us. Great job covering the NFL, the Steelers. I mean, just a great job. This half hour has been brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drink, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. And now ready to drink cocktails. Jack Daniels, Crown Royal, High Noon, and the pickle bar led by the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none. Stock up for the weekend now. Start stocking up for the 4th of July, which is going to be a 3-day weekend. All at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
There's something to be said about a sale with a handshake, a service technician who really knows what he's doing. They can explain it in English what the problem is. There's nothing better than having that friend you could trust in the area. That's Sunbury Motors, where you get selection, knowledgeable salespeople, and prices that fit your budget, and more important, that friend you can trust. Welcome to Sunbury Motors, Kia, Ford, and Hyundai. You could shop other dealers and compare prices, but at Sunbury Motors, you get their lowest price promise. They research the current used vehicle market and guarantee their used car prices are the lowest. If you find a lower price, Sunbury Motors will beat it. 3 dealers all in one. See their full new and pre-owned inventory at sunburymotors.com. Pick out a vehicle you like and schedule your test drive online. Follow them on Facebook. Sunbury Motors Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.